Coordinate. Is Aaron the coordinate? Pretty interesting terminology being thrown around there by Reiner in this episode. Episode 35, Attack on Titan Season 2. Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and this was an interesting episode, I gotta say. It was the first that led me to actually feel that Ymir actually has feelings for Krista. This is something I've talked about before, that as far as we'd seen previous to this, I had been given the heads up that there was some form of relationship between them in the manga, in the source material, and I really just wasn't picking up on that vibe. And herein, I got the vibe, full form. She digs that chick and wants to protect her, wants to see her again. This is the only girl who smiles in her presence, even knowing she's a right bitch and everything. And she knows she's a bitch. She knows she's garbage, and not so much self-deprecating as just self-hating, but whatever like that. She's sort of a realist. She's a pragmatist. She's being real with herself as to how, she is, what kind of a person she is. Krista is the light of her life, and this is the first time I'm getting the sense of that in this episode. But that whole coordinate thing, we got to bring Aaron back and find out if he is the coordinate, or see if he is, or what if he is, or whatever. And then, of course, there's the concern for Krista. They want to get their hands on her. They're kind of using that as the carrot at the end of the stick to make Ymir play part and parcel with their whole running away from the scouts that are right on their coattails and everything like that. And I love the backstory of Ymir, even though it went way over my head. I don't understand it one fucking iota. So she's a kid. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like she's, a street rat. She's an urchin on the streets or something like that. And these two guys come up and they're like, okay, we need another one. She'll do. Okay, whatever that means. I'm like, oh, okay, this might be, we're getting some hints to the Titan-esque experimentations going on. And maybe this is where she's first injected with a serum that makes her a Titan and all this stuff. I don't know. No, none of that. And we get none of that. She's suddenly brought into this cult-ish, religious, sort of faction, and she's made the god of it, like the god incarnate, like she's the Jesus to this group. The blood of the god flows through her veins, and it gives all these people something to worship. And I'm just kind of like, what the fuck is all of this? And she spends a number of years there. She goes from childhood to young adulthood, or at least teens, and mid to late teens. And suddenly the whole place, the door gets kicked in by these armed soldiers, presumably. And the guy, the sort of lead priest or whatever just under her, probably one of the ones that brought her in, is selling her out that it was her. She brainwashed all of us, and she lied to us, and we were just following orders, and yada yada. And I'm just like, what? What the fuck is going on? And she, for the sanctity of the lives of the people that have been so compassionate toward her, so worshiping of her, keeping her fed, keeping her, well living compared to the life on the streets she had so much earlier in her life, she deigns to admit that, yes, she takes the fall. Yes, I am the living God. The God's blood is in my veins, and this just makes them clamp down harder, I guess. I mean, rather than slaughtering everyone right in that room at that moment, we see them all chained and being led through the streets like, garbage, and presumably being brought to the top of one of the walls where they are seemingly stabbed and tossed over the side into what I can only presume is like, they're burning the bodies at the bottom of the wall or something like that. Is this a sacrificial act? Is it just punishment, if that's exactly what's going on, if I'm reading it correctly. Jump ahead with no explanation or warning, and she's already a Titan. Did she get out of that by transforming into a Titan? Did her body, being impacted by flames, that pain, that searing pain, did that make her transform? And then she seemed to be a Titan for who knows how long, for an age, to the point where she lays down in a hole and, like, the ground grows over her like she's in hibernation mode or something. It must have been years, decades, something like that. And this is when, finally she wakes up so many years later, and there's Reiner and Bertolt and their guy that she ate, which, based on the discussion I was having back and forth with one of you guys on the last video. So a Titan eats another Titan, and what happens there? That's pretty intriguing. I'm not going to get too far into that because it's really still out of my element. I still really don't know the ins and outs of it. Okay. And then, of course, this brings Ymir back to human form later on. They're talking about, well, they don't really retain the memory of eating human beings and everything. Of course they can't. If they did, they'd probably commit suicide once they're back in human form when they realize the monstrosities they've become. I mean, Reiner's walking around. He's carrying that way. We've seen hints of that. And his mind is fucked. His mind is completely fucked. He's fucked out of his gourd because of this. Living that dual lifestyle, having to carry all that weight on his shoulders. He's been one of these people. He's been part of this group, and these are the people, these are the human beings who are being eaten alive by Titans. That'll completely fuck you up. 6 Ways to Sunday in your mind, in your brain. And it's doing so. It's wreaking havoc on Reiner's brain, and presumably, Bertolt as well. Even though we don't actually see any really hiding her hair of that, as hints go. And so, recollecting back on how much Krista means to her, they're taking a run for it. Reiner and Bertolt, they've grabbed Eren. I loved Eren's sucker punch move, by the way. He's getting all up in Reiner's face, and Reiner's like getting right back up in his face, answering to it, reciprocating, and then Eren's like, he goes faux Don over here. Oh man, don't mess with me. You see I don't got no hands. You see I'm a weakling. I can't do any. Fuck you. And then he launches at him and starts with his little stomp. Boom, 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 on his face. Fucking die. And I'm just like, I'm laughing my ass. Did he actually think he was going to do anything, that he was going to be effectual at all? Reiner just has to sort of kick him away, and he's like, he just gets knocked back. And solidifying that idea that Eren completely lost this round, The episode's back now, but even again, just in case you forgot, he's still on the losing end of things right now. He's got the shitty end of the stick right now. And, as I say, they make a run for it because the scouts are right on their coattails. But Ymir, in reflecting on how much Krista means to her, she's not going to budge another inch. She's already tried to talk Reiner into stopping and getting Krista now because he seemingly holds her in some, importance. And I don't know exactly why, other than her familial tie, being tied to one of these religious families. And this is the interesting thing overall. It's like, they talk about if Eren is the coordinate, whatever the coordinate is. My first impression is that means the target. Somebody wants Eren for some purpose. Whether or not he is the focused coordinate, the focused target, they're not sure, but they're going to grab him just in case. Krista could be the alternative, or it could be they're in for figuring out the alternative, whoever the real genuine coordinate is, if Eren proves to fail at being that. But there's also the idea of, like, it's a junction, a cross-section of similar things going on. Back with Ymir's childhood, she's brought into a religious sect. And they are so concerned and consumed with getting their hands on Krista because of her ties to a religious family. is this family? Is this, is this current religion related to the religion that so many decades or however many years ago it was, anywhere from decades to hundreds of years, that Ymir was a child and was taken in by this sect. Is this the same sect? Is it all interconnected, intertwined along that line? I don't know. It's just really, it's fucked up. It's strange. And it kind of left me with more questions than answers along those lines. Like, what was going on with Ymir's childhood? Was she already a Titan? Was she born a Titan? And I really have no idea. She's taken in and she's the savior of these people, and then she's persecuted for it, and then she Titans out of nowhere, seemingly. There's got to be more to the story that they'll fill in later on, along those lines. But then she spends, like I say, I don't know how long, decades, centuries, as a Titan in hibernation underground, and then suddenly she reawakens and falls in love, for all intents and purposes. And so now with that newfound love, those newfound emotions, she calls Reiner on his bullshit. She's like, fuck you, man. We're doing this now. If we don't do this now, I'm gonna fuck up your boy Berthold over here. I'm gonna bite this motherfucker's head off, and shit down his neck. And so, of course, when the scouts catch up, there is Ymir in Titan form, and Connie's just like, dude, it's all right. This is perfect. She got away from them. She's here to help us. She's gonna aid us in this effect. She ain't fucking aiding shit. I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, you're fucking stupid. And you got Armin, like the voice of reason. He's like thinking to himself, why is she so furtively glancing at all of us? She's looking for something. Could she be looking for Reiner? No, she's not looking for fucking Reiner. She's looking for fucking Krista. And as soon as she sees her, she goes and gobbles her up. They're like, oh my God, she ate her. She didn't eat her. This is how they transport people, numbnuts. And so she transports Krista away. You got Reiner armoring up, tightening out, with Bertolt and, of course, Ymir's Titan form following shortly behind, and they get the fuck away. And just like, I forget who it was. Somebody's just like, oh my God, they're escaping with Eren. Gee, thanks. Thanks for stating the obvious, fuckhead. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm reeling after this episode with just pitched curiosity to make sense of all of this. I don't really get it. I don't, and even as quizzical as it left me, it still also left me with an emotional impression that I can't quite quantify, where, like, I feel for Ymir. I feel for her. I feel like even though I don't quite understand her, I sympathize with her. I empathize with her to certain degrees, which is really interesting. It's an interesting sensation to be completely bewildered, but at the same time, to feel compassion toward her character. Even though she pretty much fucked everybody by the end of this episode. She turned on them all. And now they can, wholly consider her a threat amongst Reiner and Bertolt, their forms, their Titan forms and everything. And so, like, I don't know, man. It was a hella intriguing episode. That's about all I can say about it. That's where I'm left with it. I found it to be emotionally impactful. I think the music in this episode really helped solidify that. Plus some of the, scenery going back into her flashback and her discussing her relationship with Krista and everything, and the way they were showing that a little more. We've seen some of those scenes before. Some look to me to be newer, but I really got the emotion behind that. I really got the impact of that. And so it was emotionally resonating, but also quizzical as all fuck. I don't know where we are in the grand scope of things, the grand scheme of things, by the end of it. So, like, I enjoyed the hell out of it, but, like, I feel not entirely better off for having watched it as far as piecing any of these plot mystery puzzle pieces together again. It was just an enjoyable, intriguing watch that I'm sure we won't get any more, answers for the remaining episodes of this season. So it's just kind of going to be like, well, let's see what happens next, I guess. Kind of, sort of. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this particular episode 35, Attack on Titan Season 2. For all of you cats and kitties out there that have, actually read the manga and such like that, do you think this was a thoroughly good adaptation? Did you think the emotional impact, was that part and parcel with this aspect of the story in the manga? Post no spoilers, please. Hints and whispers maybe at things, but no blatant spoilers. But I'd just like to know if you thought the adaptation was conducted well enough, satisfactorily enough. And if you're completely, a novice like I am, I have no knowledge of the manga, the source material, what the hell's going on in that and anything like that, so as to not be, spoiled by watching the actual anime. What did you think of the episode? Were you as sort of gobsmacked and left quizzical and questioning what the hell did I just watch as I was? Did you get any of that emotional resonance with Ymir and Krista? And did you get the same laugh out loud reaction that I got when Aaron sucker punched, Reiner's beating his face with his little stumps? Just, somebody's got to gift that, whatever you want to call it. I'll be watching that all day. But, otherwise it'll be pretty much it for me on this. Bring on the next one, because I don't know what the fuck was up with this one. And I'll catch you all later. Peace.